director of the Brownsville Heritage House. We have, over those years, connected with basically every country in the world in one way or another, some of which had already been connected with the Friends of the African Union, but through the skills, talent, and familiarity with international governmental regulations, Chairman Daniels had been called back into his work with the United States ambassadors, and he followed the rules and arranged to place a permanent forum within the United Nations and some of its GMOs and other organizations and affiliates. I'd like to thank also the New Future Foundation out of the United Nations, an NGO run primarily by Queen Mother Dolores Blakely, with whom many of you may already be familiar as the person who inspired the movie that Whoopi Goldberg did as a nun, I think Sister Act. Queen Mother Dolores Blakely has legitimate documentation that that film was based on her as she had left the convent and gone out to do important work for the rest of the world that led her into the United Nations with Queen Mother Moore. So there's so many different things that we could talk about now, but in the interest of time, please allow me to apologize. We had thought that we might begin as early as 5. We're somewhat delayed, but I wish to thank each of the people who has already recognized the importance and the significance of what is about to occur here. I'd like to introduce Doc Jones and the Medicine Men. You've heard about William Spaceman Patterson, the legendary musical director of all of the Cosby shows, who had done substantial work with Dick Wolf on New York Undercover, Gladys Knight, and who much earlier in his career had worked with everyone from Sly and the Family Stone, Miles Davis, a who's who of Stevie Wonder, and everyone else that there is in music knows of his productions as well as his performances. He has the Celestials, and each of the people that you see with me has basically honored a person who did not know that he had anything whatsoever to do with music. I went into the University of Johns Hopkins on my way to becoming a medical doctor. I've done that, and I found out actually from my children when they brought pianos into the house that I hear music, and I figured out a way to get on the piano and the guitar the wrong way, okay? But they are able to understand it enough, Marty, to be loyal to me, and over the years, Spaceman was actually brought to me as the only guitarist who could really understand how to convert music that was coming out of a composer's mind on an instrument the wrong way, but to still make enough sense out of it, that it could be recorded, it could be reproduced in the language that professional artists read and understand. And we're approaching our 30th year with them, and I wish, even if it's before we do anything else, please give them a hand. These are people who everybody knows. If I call them to do something and the money's not right, they know what we have, and they will break out of something that they have to do if they can, come and support it, and then get back into what they do. So let me add to the 2 introductions that were made, that the Spaceman was actually, I have to finish that, the Spaceman was brought to me in my medical office by one of the luminaries in the musical professional world, Coleridge, Taylor Perkinson, whom some of you may know have worked with Leonard Bernstein, was a formerly trained baton conductor whose nickname was the Black Mozart. He started the Symphony of the New World. He directed Alvin Ailey. He arranged I Want You for Marvin Gaye and toured with Max Roach on piano. And there's almost no one in either film, TV, Broadway, rock and roll or any other form of music, Motown, etc., who is not familiar with him, well, the Spaceman and Maestro were like twin brothers in that way. They could take music wherever it was coming from, and they could do what musicians know to do with it. And just another note on that, we have people from back when this Healthy Music Lab was first created. It happened because many people who were using music therapeutically back then, they were calling it healing music. And I wanted to know, is there a difference between the music that someone is using to heal from music that is useful to people who want to maintain their health? I couldn't answer that, but I created Healthy Music to find out, and I now have the Healthy Therapeutic Music Research Lab Teaching Tools for Tolerance project, which is what we brought to the United Nations when the medicine men came with me then in 2016 with Chairman Daniel. So without going overboard with that, what you should know is that the clinical epidemiology of pathological antisocial thinking among individuals and groups is the area that I'm attempting to look at by having people feel more comfortable being with each other, by understanding why they're not able to get along. And I use all of my work in a variety of fields in which I have entered without formal training that include mathematics, computer science, neuroanatomy, neurophysiology, and some other stuff that I do. But everything that I found things that especially in the mathematics and the computer science, that some of the real giants in mathematics are still looking for. So I want to just remind people who did not see what we launched earlier this week and what this is a follow-up to, and there will be more. We've brought Heritage House together with a similar artist community in Manhattan. They traveled and met with the people, and just please imagine that over the next several months, as more and more of our funding arrives, we have things that are scheduled between now and Juneteenth and beyond, and that Doc Jones and the Medicine Men will be, to the extent that we can arrange for the budgets and so on, involved directly, but we can also reach out because these people who are on the stage, to everyone from Mick Jagger and David Bowie's following to Duran, Mac Bohan wrote all of the sheet music for them because some of them weren't fluent, but he's an absolute genius and transferred out of MIT into Berkeley, and we bring to the scientific, the University of Scientific Artists, which is the new project that I'm trying to launch, in addition to everything that we have with that acronym USA, University of Scientific Artists. I want everyone to know that whatever is taped, video, zoomed out, that's fine. We have Canadian Bureau of the Friends of the African Union. We have other things that are going on that are asking for what we do. So between now and Juneteenth, please pay attention. Allow me to introduce everyone on the stage, and then we'll do what we need to and try to preserve the time for whatever the World Group has planned. Also, before I do that, though, I must thank Miriam Robertson again, wherever she is, for having created a living room for the world, which is where we are now, and we expect what comes out of these living rooms and events to reach similar places in the United States and throughout the world. I must thank the World Ed Group. I have to thank Monty and Satya and everyone in the group, including Barry Hammonds, Ismail, and I've met other people from it. And if you're here from the World Group, please forgive me. I'm just trying to get into what we're about to do here, which was actually scheduled from 5 to 5:30. So finally, let me run through. So the Golan intelligence, between him and the spaceman, they provide the technical, mathematical, physics, engineering, and all of those other kinds of things that in the Healthy Therapeutic Music Research Lab is what I need in order to look at clean data. We will be interested in every scientific artist in the world, and my membership in the ResearchGate, which is a social network of 20 million scientists out of Berlin, and I would want you to all know that you're supporting my research independently, but also as a chief scientific officer who is interdisciplinary. I look after the Caregiver Coalition Fund of America, and Dr. Ed Gibbons is another person who you'll later on find out more about him, and you'll find out about all of my reaches. So allow me to go through, first of all, to let you know that one of the part of the excitement or exuberance that you may be feeling from me is whenever the medicine men show up, what can I tell you? I transform into a musician during those hours as an ASCAP composer that they are able to understand and that I have longevity with. There are no other people that could do this with anybody, but especially with me. Please notice that Chuggy Carter is here from Donny Hathaway's performances and recordings on percussion, and came with the same understanding that I'm attempting to deliver to you now. Short notice, last minute flyer, medicine men, follow-up United Nations, going out to the rest of the world, and here. Okay, thank you, brother, I appreciate it. The space you know, and Marty, okay? When you get Marty Jennings to come out, the brother has been with me from the beginning. He's an extraordinary flautist, an extraordinary wind performer, but plays every instrument well. He thinks in music, he reads music, he creates music, but he's actually an architect. So my last from London or in Liverpool, okay? So last thing is to hopefully connect everyone who finds out about this to the notion that you don't have to be reincarnated in order to play music. You may have it within you, and you just haven't been exposed. Had my children not brought the pianos into the house, I may never have known about this. So one of the other things that I'm looking at are what I call instant-on lessons, and that's where if you can do this, and you can do this, and you can do that at the same time, then guess what? I used to say in a minute or less you could play. Maybe not as well as you will if you do it a lot, but you could put your fingers where I say, and you could just